I was 9 years old when I first noticed him. Our house sat at the edge of a small town, backed up against a stretch of woods that felt endless. At night, it was completely dark. No streetlights, no neighbors close enough to see anything unusual. My bedroom was on the first floor, and my bed was positioned right beside the window. Every night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., I would wake up. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. Maybe I was thirsty. Maybe I had a nightmare, but it kept happening. 2:13 a.m. every single night. And then one night, I saw it. A shadow. At first, I assumed it was the tree outside. There was an old oak tree near my window, and its branches sometimes scratched lightly against the glass when the wind blew. But this shadow wasn't moving like branches. It was too still, too straight. It looked like a person. I froze in my bed, barely breathing. The figure stood just beyond the glass, tall, thin, motionless. I couldn't see a face, only the outline of a man standing there in the darkness. When I blinked, it was gone. The next morning, I told my parents. They smiled and said it was my imagination. Maybe a bad dream. Maybe the tree playing tricks on my eyes. But the next night, at 2:13 a.m., I woke up again. And he was there. This time, closer. I could see the faint outline of shoulders. A head tilted slightly to one side, as if studying me. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't move. I pulled the blanket over my face and waited. After what felt like hours, I finally fell asleep. The sightings continued for weeks. Every night, same time, same position. One night, I forced myself to stay awake. I stared at the clock as it turned 2:13. Slowly, as if rising from the ground itself, the shadow appeared at the window. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would burst. And then, the figure lifted an arm. It pressed something against the glass. A hand. I finally screamed. My dad rushed into my room, and I pointed at the window. He ran outside with a flashlight circling the yard, shining the light toward the tree line. No one was there. But the next morning, my dad found something under the oak tree, cigarette butts, footprints in the dirt. Someone had been standing there. A few days later, the police arrested a man in our area. He had been reported for trespassing and watching houses at night. They found binoculars in his car. The police never confirmed if it was the same man. But after his arrest, the figure never returned. I'm an adult now. I don't live in that house anymore. But sometimes, at exactly 2:13 a.m., I still wake up, and I still feel like someone is watching. When I was 7 years old, I had trouble sleeping. My room always felt colder than the rest of the house, even during summer. My bed sat against the wall with just enough space underneath for storage boxes. One night, as I was trying to sleep, I heard it. A whisper, soft, faint, almost like air moving. I thought it was my imagination. Then it said my name, clear as day. I shot upright in bed, my heart racing. "Don't be scared," the voice whispered. "I'm your friend." I was too young to understand how wrong that was. I thought maybe it was an imaginary friend. Other kids had them. The voice only came at night. It spoke quietly, always from under my bed. It told me small things at first. Random comments about my toys, about school, about things that had happened during the day. But then it started saying things it shouldn't know. It told me about arguments my parents had in their bedroom. It described things hidden in drawers. It knew secrets. One night it said, "Look under the bed." I refused. It laughed softly. My mom began noticing I talked to myself at night. One evening, she stood outside my door and heard whispering, not just mine. She rushed in and flipped on the light. Silence. She checked under the bed. Nothing. But when she pulled the bed slightly forward, we saw long scratch marks on the wooden floor, as if something had been dragged. I stopped sleeping in my room after that. But one night, I gathered the courage to face it. I lay flat on the floor and slowly leaned down to look under the bed. At first, I saw nothing but darkness. Then deep in the shadow, two pale white eyes opened, and a wide, unnatural smile stretched across a face that wasn't fully there. I screamed and ran. The next day, my parents removed the bed and ripped up part of the flooring. There was a hollow space beneath the boards, large enough for something small to hide. But it was empty. The whispers stopped after that. I'm older now. I know it sounds impossible, but sometimes, when I sleep in a completely silent room, I still hear breathing beneath me. There was one rule in our house: never open the basement door. My parents said it was unsafe. Old wiring, structural damage, too dangerous for kids. But every night, we heard footsteps coming from below. Slow, heavy steps. The basement door was at the end of a narrow hallway. Sometimes, late at night, I would see the handle slowly turn. Just slightly. One afternoon, when my parents were out, my cousin and I found the spare key. We stared at each other for a long time before unlocking the door. The smell hit us first, damp, rotten, like something had been closed away for too long. We turned on the lights. Old furniture covered in sheets, dust everywhere, boxes stacked in corners. Then I noticed something strange. On one wall were old photographs pinned up. Most were faded, but one stood out. It was a picture of a young boy. He looked exactly like me. Same hair, same eyes, same birthmark on the cheek. The photo was dated 1989. I was born in 2005. As we stared at it, we heard something. Crying, soft, weak, coming from the far corner of the basement. "Help me," a child's voice whispered. The lights flickered violently. Something moved behind us. We ran upstairs and slammed the door shut. When my parents got home, they were furious. But when they saw the photograph in my shaking hands, their faces changed.
Who are these people?
That night, they sealed
Honey,
the
where
basement
did you
door
find
permanently.
that?
Let me see that.
Years later, I learned the truth. The previous owner's son had died in the basement, same age as me. Some say children can sense things adults can't. Sometimes I wonder, if we hadn't opened the door, would it still be waiting?